As a Linux admin, I maintain quite a few servers on a day-to-day basis. Some of these servers are dedicated to this very YouTube channel. So what I wanted to do was take a look around, do some searching, and try to find some sort of dashboard that I can use to get a view of the overall health of my servers. That search has brought me today to Rudder. Now, Rudder is somewhat of a special case. It's not just a dashboard. It's more focused towards configuration management, but it is a dashboard. It does give you a look at your servers as well, and that's my angle for checking it out. I use Ansible for configuration management, so I have that part pretty much covered. But what I'm going to do in this video is show you guys how to install Rudder, and then I'm going to give it a review and give you guys my thoughts as well. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a sponsored video. They are not paying me for this. I reached out to them because I wanted to get a key that I could use to check out some of the paid add-ons, and that's what I've done. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and check out Rudder. We'll get back to the video shortly, but first I want to mention my sponsor, Linode. Founded in 2003, Linode is the largest independent cloud service provider built on open source. And Linode is giving Learn Linux TV subscribers $100 in credit when you sign up today. If it runs on Linux, it runs on Linode. Multiple distros are available including Ubuntu, CentOS, Alpine, and of course Arch. And multiple server configurations make any app or service flexible and scalable. Use your Linode server to host a website, set up your own personal VPN, create a Nextcloud instance, host a game server, and more. Linode also features 24/7/365 support that's available by phone or support ticket regardless of your plan size. And the pricing is simple with monthly caps that ensure no hidden fees and generous monthly transfer that's built in, which means no large bill surprises like you get from AWS or Azure. So go ahead and check out Linode. They are actually my infrastructure provider. I love their service. So go ahead and sign up with the link in the description below to get your $100 in Linux server credits. And now let's get back to the video. So here we are with a fully configured Rudder server. Rudder is awesome. It gives us a dashboard that we can use to see the health of our servers, and through this tool we can actually set up rules that our servers must follow. It can generate reports when a server is not in compliance. And in compliance with what in particular, you might ask? Well, any requirements that you want to create, such as packages that need to be installed, settings for OpenSSH, you name it, there's quite a bit of things that you can configure here. When you have a server that is configured to be controlled by Rudder, you will see that server here in the list of nodes. I have one added right here, as you can see. And I'm going to show you how to set this up in this video. So why don't we hop in the DeLorean and go back in time to before I actually set this up so I could show you the entire process. Alright, so let's get started and set up Rudder. I'm going to set it up on Linode, but you don't actually have to use Linode. Since I'm going to be showing the process on Ubuntu Server, you could use any platform that provides Ubuntu Server, including but not limited to your own virtualization server, a physical server, and so on. And when it comes to the requirements for running the Rudder server, there's two components, the server and the agent. The server requires at least 2 GB of RAM if you are managing less than 50 nodes, and 4 GB of RAM if you are managing between 50 and 1,000. And if you plan on managing more than 1,000 nodes, then you'll need at least 4 GB plus another gigabyte for every 500 nodes beyond the first 1,000. So I'll create a Linode here. And I am going to choose Ubuntu 2004. In the region, it doesn't really matter. I'll choose Toronto because, Canada is awesome. For the Linode platform, the plan is where you choose the type of instance you want to create. which also determines your server's available RAM and CPU. Now I'm going to choose the 4 GB version. I could have probably gotten away with a 2 GB version, but I figure if the Rudder server itself needs 2 GB of RAM, then I probably should go up one notch to make sure that there's enough left for the actual operating system. I think 4 GB is going to be fine. Probably overkill, but I think it'll do. And for the label, I am going to name mine Rudder Server. And I'll put in a super secret password. And on the Linode platform, you do have access to a backup service if you want to use that. That has nothing to do with the topic at hand today, just something to mention in case you want to use Linode and you plan on using the Rudder server in production. So for me, $20 a month, I think that'll be just fine. I'll click Create. And then it's being created, so I'll give this a moment to finish, and then I'll be right back. Okay, looks like the instance has been created. Just to make sure that it's finished booting. You see that it's still booting, so when this finishes, then we will be ready to proceed. All right, it's up and running. So I like to use SSH, so that's what I'm going to do. So on your end, you basically just need to install Ubuntu Server, or whatever your distribution of choice happens to be. The examples in this video are going to be for Ubuntu Server, like I've mentioned. So if you are using a different distribution, you might need to adjust your commands accordingly. But once you have your Ubuntu server or whatever your Linux instance is all set and ready to go, just SSH into that server, and then we can go ahead and get it installed. So I'll press Enter. And there we go. I have successfully connected to the new server via SSH, and this is the server that is going to be the Rudder server. So what I'm going to do is actually edit the host name. And for now, I'm just going to call mine simply Rudder server. And I'll change the host file as well to match. Simple enough. And if you've never used Nano before, it's just Control-O and then Enter to save, and then Control-X to exit out. You could use whatever your text editor is. I just wanted to change the host name because that is a good practice, and we'll see the difference as soon as I reboot. But what we actually want to do before we get started, like always, is install all the updates. We want to always make sure we have all the latest patches, especially when we are about to roll out a new server like we're doing today. So I'll just run apt update. Okay, and then apt dist upgrade to actually install the updates. And this should ensure that we have everything all set and ready to go. And, well, you know, Linode must have just refreshed the Ubuntu instance because as of today, there's no updates. We're already up to date. So what I'm going to do is reboot it anyway. I don't need to do that, but I'll just make sure that everything is refreshed, and I did just change the host name. You don't need to reboot the server for changing the host name, but for the sake of this video, it's just simpler to do so. So I'll go ahead and do that. And let's see if enough time has passed for the instance to have already started back up. And here we go. Okay, I've rebooted the server, and we can also see that the host name for the server has been updated. And we can go ahead and continue along. So the first thing we're going to do to get the Rudder root server installed is we are going to install an apt key that is going to make sure that we have the key that's required to ensure that the packages we are about to download are signed appropriately. And because I'm too lazy to type, I'll just paste it in right here. And essentially all we're doing is using wget to pull the public key from the Rudder website. And then we are piping that into sudo to execute the apt key add command. So I'll press enter. And there we go. It says OK. So now we have the key on the system. And with that out of the way, we can go ahead and install the actual repository. And again, I'm going to paste that in right here. And essentially all we're doing is we are echoing a string, which is going to be this right here. This is going to be the actual apt repository for Rudder. And this component right here is just going to get the release of the distribution that I'm using and automatically populate that. And then it's going to store it in this file right here, the rudder.list file in the sources.list.d directory. So standard stuff if you've ever used or installed anything on Ubuntu Server before. So I'll press enter. And to be on the safe side, let's check that file and ensure that nothing looks unusual. And it looks good to me. So we should be able to run apt update to refresh the package index again, since we have, after all, added a new repository. So no errors so far. If you do receive errors at this point, make sure that you've added the repository line effectively, and you should have whatever your code name is for your distribution right there. So with that out of the way, we should be able to go ahead and install the Rudder server component. And for that, we should be able to run apt install rudder-server-root, just like that. And I forgot to mention that there's actually a wiki article for this video already on wiki.learnlinux.tv. There is a link below in the description. So if you want to go ahead and copy and paste the commands that I am entering, you'll find those commands in that article. So anyway, I'll press enter to install this package. And it's going to install a few dependencies, actually more than a few, that's fine. I'll just press enter to accept the defaults. And I'll give it a minute for these packages to install, and then I'll be right back. For this message right here, I'm going to say yes, because I'll have it just configure the database for me. It just makes it a bit easier. But if you know any database kung fu and you prefer to actually do this yourself, you can do that. But I'll just press enter to accept the default. Enter again. And I'm going to press enter for a random password to be generated. All right, so everything is installed and we can go ahead and just see whether or not it's working by attempting to access it in a browser. So what I should be able to do is copy this IP address again, open up a new tab. I'll paste that in there and then type /rudder at the end. I'll press enter. Let's see what happens. Now here I'm actually getting a security warning, which is expected because I don't have an actual certificate for this server. It's just a demo. So in this case, I can go ahead and click advanced, and then I'll accept the risk. Now Rudder is showing up here in the browser, so far so good. But as it's telling me here, it wants me to go ahead and create a user. So what I'll do is I'll copy this. I can, before it refreshes again. There we go. And I should be able to paste the command in right here. Then you change the end there to whatever you want your username to be. I'll just use my first name, simple enough. And then I'll press enter. I'll type in a super secret password. And it's added my user, and it's now restarting the server. Okay, so far so good. Let's see if I can log in now. So username and password. And here we see the Rudder dashboard running on my Linode. That's awesome. Now what we should do is go to Settings and then General. And then it shows the allowed networks right here. Now, I recommend that you add whatever networks you want to be able to connect to this instance. And if you are running it on a VPS provider like I am, then you'll probably want to add your home or home office IP address here. So what you could do for that is go to a website such as icanhasip.com, which will give you your public IP, and what I'll do is paste that right here and add that in. And this will allow me to add any of the VMs on my home office network to this instance to be able to communicate with it. And that's a good idea anyway, so I definitely recommend that you do that. Now, if you are using a VPS provider, you can add local networking here. That'll work just fine as well. But anyway, I'll click Save Changes. And now the server component is all set and ready to go. So next what I'm going to do is install the agent on a server, but before I do that, I'll create a new server. So here on Linode, yet again, I'll just create another instance. And again, I'm going to choose Ubuntu 2004. And again, Toronto, because Canada is awesome. Now for this, I'm just going to choose the Linode. I think that's going to be good enough for this. I'll just call it Rudder Client 1, for example. I think that's good enough. Then password. And let's get it created. So the new server is being created, so I'll let this finish and I'll be right back. And the new server has been created. It's booting up. All right, it's ready to go. So just like before, I'm going to grab that IP address. Open up a new tab here. And let's use SSH and get connected. And just like before, I am going to set the host name. And there we go. Just to make sure, I'm going to run apt update. And I'll also chain that into apt dist upgrade as well. Let's make sure we're completely up to date. And then I will restart the instance. Okay, so I think enough time has passed for the server to have come back online. And there we are. So now here on the left tab, I have the Rudder server that we were already working with. And now here on this tab, I have the client. Now, in order for this server to communicate with our Rudder server, there's an agent package that we'll need to install. And the steps are pretty much identical to setting up the server, but the name of the package is different. So just like before, we will install the apt key. Command hasn't changed, same thing. And that's okay. And also like before, we will install the repository. I'll press enter. And just for a sanity check, let's check that file out. And there it is. So apt update. And now with all that out of the way, we can go ahead and install the agent, which is just as simple as apt install rudder-agent, just like that. All right, enter again. I'm just going to accept the defaults. Next, what I'm going to do is run rudder agent policy-server, and then I'll paste in the IP address of the Rudder server itself, which is this one. So now what I will do is grab the IP address of the new server, which is this one right here. And under settings and then general, let's go ahead and add that server just like that. And I forgot to add the /32 here, so save the changes. Now that I have added the server IP, I will run systemctl restart rudder agent, and I will run rudder agent inventory to go ahead and force it along. And so far so good. So if I go back to the dashboard here, I should be able to go to Accept New Nodes. And right here we see the brand new server that I just set up. So I could check the box and go ahead and accept it. I'll confirm. Then now if I go to List Nodes, we see not only the server itself, but we also see the Rudder client as well. So if I click on it, we can see some useful information for that particular server. We can also view compliance reports because we can actually build policies with Rudder and see whether or not it's actually compliant. I haven't created any policies yet, but this is where we would go if we wanted to test compliance. We have the inventory section here, so we could check the file system information. We see the total available disk space here, as well as the amount of free space. Information regarding the network interfaces. We get a list of the packages that are installed, and there's quite a few, 24 pages. So basically, it's giving us a full inventory of the packages installed on the server. This is pretty cool. We could check the environment. So we get all the environment variables here, which is awesome. BIOS information, memory. We get quite a bit of information here. And going through each of these tabs is beyond the scope of this video, but as you can see, we have quite a bit of control here. And then for settings, we can actually change the policy. We can enable or disable the node state, which basically means that if this is enabled, the policies for the node are turned on. And we get some more options there as well. Now, in addition, we also have the ability to install plugins in Rudder that will extend its capabilities. But what I don't like is if I expand plugins and then go to plugin information, it brings me to this page right here. And notice that there's nothing here to install. Everything is blank. But it does tell me here that the available plugins are documented in the Rudder plugin page. So I'll click on that. And, I'll just go ahead and download the free plugins. Why not? And it brings me to a contact page. Now, in my opinion, this should never happen. If the plugins are available for free, then they really do just need to be made available for free without having to go ahead and, sign a consent. Now, on my end, I was actually granted a trial license to check out all of the plugins, including the paid plugins. So back on the server, I'm going to go to the actual Rudder root server right here. Then there's a special file we need to edit, which is this one right here, /opt/rudder etc rudderpkg, rudderpkg.conf, as you see here. And the file already exists, so basically what we need to do is add the username and the password for the account. So I'll add mine right here. So I will save the file and exit. And now that that file has been created, I should be able to run Rudder package update just like that. And now that we have the repository installed, we should be able to run a command to list all of the plugins that are available, which is Rudder package list -- all, just like that. I'll press enter. And as you can see here, there are a few plugins that we can install. And what I'm going to do is install the Zabbix plugin just as a test. And I don't actually have a Zabbix server at the moment. However, if I did, it would be helpful to have the agent for Zabbix installed. And if you guys would like, I might be able to create a tutorial on setting up Zabbix if there's any interest. Now what I will run is Rudder package install Rudder plugin Zabbix and then enter. And that's all there is to it. So I was able to install the plugin. And let's go ahead and install another one that was on the list, which was for branding. So I'll press enter. And back on the dashboard, it did need to restart. So what I'll do is just relog in again. So here on plugin information, we can see some information here. And it's giving us a warning that either the license hasn't been initialized yet or it's missing, but we're going to ignore that for now. So now that we've installed the branding plugin, we have branding here on the left-hand side. And this gives us the ability to upload a custom image. For example, maybe we want to replace the Rudder logo right here with the logo for our company. And I've already downloaded the logo for the YouTube channel, so I'll just use that as an example. I'll click Open, and we get a preview window right here showing us what the sidebar, basically this, what that's going to look like. It also shows the new logo here. And then it also gives us a preview of what the login page will look like as well. Now I can click Save, but it's not going to work. If I click up here, we can see that there's an issue with the license, and the issue is I don't actually have a license. Now I do have access to the paid plugins, but I don't have an actual license, which is why this error is showing up. But I wanted to show you guys what it looks like to install a plugin, and I've done that. And if you think the added features of the paid plugins will be beneficial to you, then you can go ahead and check that out. But this just serves as an overview of the entire process, so I'm not too concerned about the license. I just wanted to make sure you guys were able to see what the process of installing a plugin actually looks like. So let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. So what I'm going to do is go here to Directives. And we get a list of all kinds of things that we can configure on our servers. And this is where Rudder actually shines, because you can basically use it to manage all of your other Linux servers. You can see here we have options for OpenSSH, we have options for firewall, DNS settings. Basically what we can do is create policies in a situation where we want all of the servers or a certain group of servers to have certain things or certain settings. And this is really good for compliance and things like that. And it's especially better to manage your servers through a dashboard like this than it is to, go ahead and just manually configure all of your servers, which can be quite hard if you have hundreds, for example. So let's go ahead and take a look through here and find something that would be a good idea to test. So what I'm going to do is click here on Packages, and I'll click Create with latest version. And scroll down here a bit. And for the package name, what I'm going to do is just type htop. That's a simple test. I'll make sure that it's present. And I'm going to leave the rest as the default here and just click Save. And here we could go ahead and create an audit message. So perhaps we are adding something to a production server. We want to have a paper trail. So what I'm going to do is type added htop package. Pretty simple. And now what I'm going to do is go down here where it says rules, and I'm going to basically add this to the global configuration policy, and then I'll save it. Updated policy, just as an example. So let's go to list nodes, and then we'll go to the Rudder client. Let's go to compliance reports. We'll expand this here. We can see that this server is in 100% compliance. Then under here we have packages and package, htop, and right now it says that it's applying. So we're going to wait for that to finish. We can see that the packages are 100%. So what I'm going to do is just go down here to the server, in which htop, we can see that htop is installed, it's working, and we should be ready to go. So, what's my opinion of Rudder? Actually, I think it's very impressive. It has a lot of features, and it would be even more useful if I took advantage of all of the configuration management features that it has. But again, I'm mainly looking for a dashboard. It definitely does check that box. Now, my big concern here, it's more of a personal pet peeve, is that when I went to check out the free plugins, I wanted to go ahead and just, take a look at those before I applied the key that I was provided. It basically put the free plugins behind a contact form. And in my opinion, that should never happen. That is one of the most annoying things when you are a systems administrator, when you're trying to get information about something and they put it behind a contact form because they want to basically contact you and sell you into something. I just hate that. Now, that's my only complaint. I think they should definitely stop doing that and make sure that the plugins that are free are easily accessible without a contact form. But with that aside, Rudder is actually a very awesome utility, and I might actually use it for the purposes of setting up a dashboard. Now, to be fair, I am going to check out some other solutions and compare them, and I will choose the best, and whatever one wins will actually become the solution that I will use for my dashboard. But other than that one complaint, Rudder is actually a pretty cool piece of software, and if you are looking for something similar like I am, maybe you'll like it. Go ahead and check it out and let me know what you think. And you can let me know what you think in the comments down below, as always. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about that. But in the meantime, if you haven't already done so, click like and subscribe, and I will see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.